Say it with me. Drake May was not the entire North Carolina football team. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say North Carolina is not going to be good because they lost Drake May. The Tar Heels will be just fine, and they are flying under the radar in 2024. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. Ready to break down the UNC Tar Heels, their schedule and prediction for this upcoming season. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below, including our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to our weekly newsletter, home to our expert picks, some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the entire country that have beat out over 80% of the national handicappers each of the last 6 years. We promise you, guarantee in fact, it will be 7 straight years and we beat out all of those other analysts, and we're offering those picks to you for one of the lowest prices in the entire country. So go check it out. Sign up for those today. The earlier you sign up, the better and the more exclusive content you get. The links for everything down in the description below. We want you to take advantage of it, and we want you to join us and become a member of our GE Nation. So let's take a look at North Carolina, guys. This is a team that, has been so good under Mac Brown, but really hasn't been able to get over the hump. Yeah, they were in the ACC championship just a few years ago where they got torched against Clemson, but this is a team, guys, that typically after about 4 or 5 weeks, we're looking at UNC and go, man, they could be really good. And they slip up to a team they shouldn't. Maybe it's Georgia Tech, maybe it's Virginia, but they always find a way to let their fans down, I guess, over these last few years. Mac Brown, look, he's led the Tar Heels to a bowl game every year since he returned back in 2019, but he's also had North Carolina in the top 10 3 times, 3 different seasons since he came back to North Carolina, and the team has never won more than 9 games. So that's unfortunate. This year, they've got 2 new coordinators. Offensive coordinator Chip Lindsey, the former head coach at Troy, taking over. They've got a new defensive coordinator in Jeff Collins, the former head coach at Georgia Tech. So you've got 3 guys, the head coach, OC, DC, they were all head coaches at some point in their career. This is a UNC team that I think is going to be a lot better than people realize. Offensively, yes, Drake May's gone. He was phenomenal. I think he's going to do very well with the New England Patriots. But they've got a veteran quarterback, Max Johnson, transferring in. Threw for over 5,800 yards and 47 touchdowns in his career at both LSU and Texas A&M. I think he's going to be just fine. The Tar Heels return one of the best running backs in the ACC, Amarian Hampton, rushed for over 1,500 yards and 15 touchdowns just last year alone. They return a couple of their top wide receivers in J.J. Jones and Nate McCollum. They return their star tight end, big tight end, and Bryson Nesbitt. The offensive line does have a handful of questions. That's the biggest concern I have for North Carolina offensively. They gave up 37 sacks last year. They don't show much improvement. Amarian Hampton may struggle. We know Max Johnson can struggle if he can stay healthy. Got to be able to protect your quarterback. The offensive line has to improve. Defensively, 7 starters are back, but the defense, as we know, that's been their downfall. The defense has been the reason that UNC maybe hasn't lived up to expectations or gotten over the hump since Mac Brown returned to Chapel Hill. But last year was their best defense since 2019. That might not be saying much, but statistically it was. Now they got a lot of guys coming back, including their star, Power Echols, 102 tackles, returning at linebacker. And Tavius Lane is back in the secondary, a loaded secondary, I should add, which is great because one of Jeff Collins' specialties. They've also got a strong defensive line. Kamen Rucker back up front, 8.5 sacks last year. This defense has the opportunity to be about the same, if not a little bit better than what we saw in 2023. And if you're a UNC fan, you'll absolutely take that. This team is not going to fall off the face of the earth. I'm not saying they're going to go win an ACC title or anything, but I am saying they are still a contender in what I believe to be a wide-open conference. Take a look at North Carolina's schedule. Open up on the road at Minnesota on a Thursday night. Interesting game there. Minnesota, these 2 teams met last year, and the Golden Gophers got torched in Chapel Hill, 31-13. They ended up finishing the year at 5-7, slipped into a bowl game, though, and won that game. So 6-7 for PJ Fleck's squad. 16 starters back. Minnesota is one of those teams that you really don't know what to expect from in 2024. They got a transfer quarterback in Max Brosmer coming in. They got their leading rusher, leading pass catcher returning. There's an opportunity for this team to be better than the one that averaged less than 21 points per game offensively last year. But I don't think it all comes together for this Minnesota squad in week 1. I like Mac Brown over PJ Fleck right now. I like North Carolina's offense over Minnesota's offense right now. Defensively, probably going to give the edge to the Golden Gophers here, but I think that the Tar Heels can exploit that. Give me a win for UNC on the road over a power opponent to kick off the year, and then I think they win not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 straight games. They should cruise past Charlotte. They should cruise past James Madison. It's not the same James Madison team that we saw last year. All those big-time talented players that James Madison had, they're gone. They either went off to the NFL or they transferred out. Maybe they transferred over to Indiana with Kurt Signetti. The Dukes have a brand new head coach in Bob Chesney coming from Holy Cross. He's a great hire, and James Madison's still going to be competitive in the Sun Belt, but not with UNC. So cruise past Charlotte, cruise past NC Central, overlook them, NC Central, cruise past James Madison, and then on the road at Duke, I do believe they beat the Blue Devils as well. In-state rivalry game, always a fun one to watch. Probably going to be more fun to watch this game in basketball this year. Duke, first year under Manny Diaz, really going to have issues up front, both on the offensive line and the defensive line. I think North Carolina's going to be able to exploit that rather easily. They've won 5 straight games over the Blue Devils, 3 of them by 1 possession. So Duke's held their own, but I don't think this year is going to be a 1-possession game. North Carolina should win, and they should win rather comfortably. They beat Duke, and they are undefeated. So tell me if you've heard this story before. You look at UNC. They are 5-0. They're nationally ranked. They're looking good. And everybody goes, you look at the rest of the schedule, and you go, it's pretty manageable. They could maybe finish, 2-loss team, 1-loss team, wide open conference. Could they slip in? Could they not? I do think they beat Pittsburgh to clinch bowl eligibility, so 6-0 at home. They've really done really well against the Panthers over the last few years. They beat the Panthers by 17 last year, beat them by 18 the year before that. Pittsburgh simply just isn't there yet. Still have a lot of questions offensively for Pittsburgh. The defense should improve, get back to the Pat Narduzzi form that we're used to seeing, but I still don't think the Panthers are quite to the point to come on the road and beat this North Carolina squad that's a lot more experienced than people realize. So they're 6-0, and they stay at home to take on Georgia Tech. This is where things always get tricky. Right? Last couple of years, we've seen it. North Carolina's been 6-0, 7-0, 6-1, whatever it may be. Off to these hot starts, top 10 appearances, and then they slip up to a team they shouldn't. Georgia Tech has been that team a handful of times. They've lost 3 straight games to the Yellow Jackets. That includes a 46-42 loss last year. And I'm going to tell you this. I think it's 4 straight losses to Georgia Tech for North Carolina. The beginning of the schedule is very, very easy, so people might be overhyping North Carolina just a little bit. Now they're going to face a Georgia Tech team that's not scared of North Carolina at all. They're not scared to play them in Atlanta. They're not scared to play them in Chapel Hill. They are not scared at all, and this is going to be the best offense that North Carolina has seen to date. The first 6 games, none of those teams have very good offenses. Georgia Tech has a great one, and I'm not quite sure that North Carolina's defense is going to be ready for it. They weren't ready for it the last 3 years. They weren't ready for it last year. Even leading by 10, they blew a 10-point lead. Georgia Tech allowed them to come back, end up winning that game by 4. I like this Georgia Tech team a lot. Haynes King, Jamal Haynes, great wide receivers, a better offensive line than people realize. This is a dangerous Yellow Jackets team that by season's end might not reflect that. The record's not going to reflect how good this team really is. But I think Brent Key's squad comes back in here, gets a win over North Carolina again. The Tar Heels get their first loss of the year right before a bye week, so never want to lose, but if they're going to lose, get it before a bye to rest and correct those mistakes. The question is, does this derail the season? Does this loss to Georgia Tech derail the season like it has in previous years when North Carolina's lost to a team that they shouldn't? Will it derail the year? Let's find out. They come out of the bye week and they go on the road to Virginia. Virginia was the team that derailed the season last year. How funny, right? The season ended for North Carolina when the 10th-ranked, undefeated 6-0 Tar Heels lost 31-27 to Virginia as a 23.5-point favorite. Tar Heels were 23.5-point favorites and lost to Virginia 31-27 as a top 10 team in the country. After that, they could never really recover. They just it was very inconsistent. They lost their mojo. Ended up being a solid year, sure, but not as good as they wanted it to be. Virginia is not going to win this year. Yes, the Cavaliers are better. They are more improved. They are more experienced, but they still are not to the point, I think, to get, lightning can strike once. Lightning does not strike twice. North Carolina will get revenge, and I think they win this game by double digits over a Virginia team that, kind of similar to Georgia Tech, I think by season's end, is going to be a much better team. Their final record shows. The Cavaliers just have a very difficult schedule, but North Carolina does have enough to take them down, especially off that week of rest. Then they go on the road to Florida State. I don't think they have a chance to win this game in Tallahassee. By this point in the year, I think Florida State has worked out any new kinks they've had to work out with all the new pieces they've had, especially with new quarterback DJ Uyunglele coming in. But the Seminoles defense is still one of the best in the entire country. Will be one of the best in the ACC. One could argue it's 1A and 1B defensively with Clemson and Florida State. Now they've got to go to Tallahassee, one of the most difficult places to play in the country. I don't think this offense for North Carolina can exploit that Florida State defense on their home turf. So Florida State gets the win, still going to be an ACC title contender, still going to be a college football playoff contender in 2024. They lose that game. Now they've got 2 losses. They're 7-2 with 3 games left coming out of the bye week. 2 of them, though, are at home. Coming out of the bye, they take on Wake Forest. I think easy work there. So the bye weeks come at good times for North Carolina. They're well rested, and then they should, in theory, take care of Virginia easily after their first bye. Should take care of Wake Forest at home rather easily after their second bye. The Demon Deacons guys have a very concerning secondary. This could be one of the many games, I think, where Max Johnson has himself quite the day. And even if he can't do that, the Demon Deacons still were giving up over 150 rushing yards per game. Maybe Amarian Hampton has himself a day. Regardless, at home, off a week of rest, UNC's offense will not be stopped in this game. They clinch an 8-win season with that win over Wake Forest. Could they go for 9? Could they go for 10? Could we see the best year of the Mac Brown era in 2024 without generational quarterback talent like Sam Howell or Drake May? Unfortunately, I'm not calling for it. I believe North Carolina loses their last 2 games. I believe they will fall to Boston College. The kicker for this game is, can they contain Thomas Castellanos, the dangerous dual-threat quarterback for Boston College? The only other true dual-threat quarterback they might see all year is maybe Haynes King against Georgia Tech, or at least one of a decent caliber. I don't think they're going to be able to contain Haynes King. I don't believe they're going to be able to contain Thomas Castellanos on the road, with maybe Boston College's backs against the wall, maybe fighting for their postseason lives. Their defense still quite not there yet. They can't contain that running game for the Eagles, especially a run game that's going to be better offensively with an offensive-minded coach in Bill O'Brien and a total of 17 starters back. And then NC State to round out the year, the in-state rivalry game, senior night for the Tar Heels in Chapel Hill. Hasn't really mattered in years past, though. They've lost 3 straight to the Wolfpack, including a 39-20 loss last year. This NC State team is loaded this year. Grayson McCall and Jordan Waters and Casey Concepcion and tons of back on defense, although not nearly as good defensively as they were last year. It doesn't matter. NC State could be fighting for a spot in the ACC championship. Heck, they could be fighting to keep their playoff hopes alive. That's how good this team is. The Wolfpack have the better quarterback in this game. They have the better defense in this game. And home field advantage really isn't going to play that big of a factor in my eyes with an in-state rivalry game like this. Tar Heels lose to finish the year at 8-4. To me, that's a pretty dang successful season. With the players that North Carolina lost, with all this noise coming around this offseason, people saying they're going to take this major step back and might not even make a bowl game, clinching a winning season with 8 wins, a shot at winning your bowl game and winning 9 games, that's a heck of a year, and to me, a heck of a job by Mac Brown and his 2 new coordinators that I think were phenomenal hires in Chapel Hill. So maybe not the year Tar Heel fans are hoping for. Maybe it's better than we're hoping for. I don't know. I think 8 wins is a very, very good year, and North Carolina, once again, should not be slept on heading in to this season. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home of our expert picks. The earlier you sign up for those, the better. Do not miss out on that, and do not miss out on all the other exclusive content for you to become a member of our GE Nation. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.